Une enormous pleasure, c'est pour moi une joie d'être ici ce soir à cet événement très spécial. And as a number of you have said in passing, this is really an evening to celebrate a Canadian hero. What a magnificent group. We don't do this often enough. We need to do it more. And Kevin, you've made it happen. Now, when David Mitchell called and asked if I would be willing to say a few words this evening, I jumped at the opportunity. I omitted, however, to look at the order of proceedings. And had I known that I was following Prime Minister Chrétien and our great ambassador, I might have been just a little slower to the draw. But I was so enthusiastic about doing it because literally over the last 15 years, I've known no public servant who's done more to advance the agenda of the country, both for local social well-being and prosperity, but also for national positioning than Kevin Lynch. Kevin Lynch, as you know, hails from Cape Breton. I think it explains a lot about that warm and wonderful demeanor that he brings to everything that he does. He is also a graduate of Mount Allison, of Manchester University, and of McMaster University. He's an economist, as you know, by background. He has spent his entire professional life in the public service, first with the Bank of Canada as chief economist, and then in the ministries of Industry Canada and Finance. He had a literally meteoric rise from assistant to associate to deputy minister in industry, then to deputy minister in finance, a brief sojourn off to the International Monetary Fund in Washington, where he reinvigorated his own commitment to the cause of Canada-US relations and brought that back to the public service and into the scholarly and scientific domain as well. We all know and love you, Kevin, but I want to comment on just a couple of lessons I've learned over the last years working with Kevin. And I came into senior university administration in sort of a Pippi Longstocking mode in January of 1994, just full of enthusiasm for the job of research, scholarship, the humanities, the social sciences, all the wonderful things that could be done in a great university system, to be met with federal program review, budget cuts, provincial budget cuts, cuts on cuts, and wondered what I had committed myself to. And two lessons from Kevin. We know his extraordinary intellectual capacity, his irrepressible energy and dedication to work, and his iconic, enthusiastic, warm smile combined with a poker face, used very selectively and instrumentally to get an achieved result. So my two stories go back to those early days and really focus in on Kevin as teacher and professor, which he is in addition to being a most distinguished public servant. Lesson number one, government relations. Don't come asking if you don't know what you're going to give. And some of you will remember those days back in 1994 when AUCC, 94-95, first with Claude Lajeunesse and then Robert Giroux, went to see the Associate Deputy Minister in Industry to say, you know, this just isn't going to do. We are losing our very best field by field by field south of the border and to other countries that should not be fierce competitors with Canada. And you simply have to invest more in the federal granting councils, and you have to give us the tools back that we need to succeed on the world stage. And Kevin just said, no, this isn't the way to go about asking. He didn't invoke our mothers, but you had a feeling that if you didn't say please and you didn't say how you were going to deliver on what you were asking for, there'd be no point in taking it forward. And I think that literally, Kevin, signaled a new era in university collaboration, in strategy about thinking about how we could make decisions about how our respective universities could play to their distinctive niches, how we would grow the research and scholarly enterprise, and do it with a commitment to quality that would not only work well at the local level, but would support the country and indeed support Canada internationally. Lesson number two, December 26, 1996, so just back to that irrepressible energy and commitment to work. My then boss, Rob Pritchard, and I had been trying to get a meeting with Kevin for about a month, and I think around late in the day, Christmas Eve, we got a call saying, well, you can come and meet me on the 26th. And this was no moment to say, well, isn't that Christmas holidays? One wouldn't do that. And so we turned up, and this was in the very beginning stages of beginning to build that suite of programs that were launched under Prime Minister Chrétien and that indeed have been sustained until today under Prime Minister Harper to take us out of a losing position on the humanities, the social sciences, the biological sciences, engineering, and to think about how we would begin to create programs that would be strategically driven and performance driven, but that would give the tools to progress. And so there we were on a December 26th afternoon, so this is lesson number 2, and we had begun to talk about the Canada Foundation for Innovation in the months before, the need for transformative infrastructure, and Kevin had his poker face, not his warm, enthusiastic face on, and he said, okay, what would be the parameters of the program? And we talked a little bit about those. And then he said, this is the real lesson, how much money will it take? How much money will it take to really launch that program at a level that could really make a difference? Rob and I actually hadn't talked about a dollar figure in the taxi on the way down, but one of us, probably Rob, said $300 million. And with bluster, $300 million. Kevin didn't show a thing. He said thank you. He looked at his watch. We shook hands, holiday wishes and all that. Out we went. 4 months later, he launched the Canada Foundation for Innovation with an $800 million investment. Don't ever be the one to go first when you're talking about dollar amounts. But it also showed that Kevin was going about his work in a disciplined way, being the economist that he is, being the great public servant that he was, figuring out what it would take to really launch these programs. And on the basis of the Canada Foundation for Innovation, the Canada Research Chairs Program, Genome Canada, the transformation of the Medical Research Council into the Canadian Institutes for Health Research, on and on, we set a new framework and a new movement to success for Canada, for our universities. Kevin was the first person I ever talked to who understood, even before we talked about innovation, what went into the innovation cycle, the role of talent, the role of collaboration, the role of strategy, and the role of accountability. For all of that, Kevin, we thank you enormously. That Kevin did that Kevin was a forerunner for the launching of that new era of aspiration and performance for Canada's universities and for the scholarly and scientific enterprise would have been enough. But at the same time, he was a leader on the development and the renewal of the public service. He made us all start thinking about public service. He challenged universities to think about renewal of the public service, about bringing bright and engaged young students to think about serving their country either at the local level or at the national level through public service. He's been a great mentor and teacher. And I have to say, as a woman university leader, how exceptional it is and what a joy it is and what an enrichment it is for the country that we have so many outstanding public servants, so many of you here in the room tonight, and that so many of you are women. Just let me say it, it's pretty nice. And Kevin, thank you for that. That must be Cape Breton as well. You have been simply magnificent over your decades as a senior public service servant with this meteoric rise with a commitment to Canada's place in the world, Canada-US relations, the public service, and our scientific and scholarly enterprise. You are simply leaving Canada a much, much better place in our public life as a civil society and as a competitor on the world stage. Thank you. We hail you. We salute you.